Welcome back to the dopest show you won't get sick of. I'm Spencer. This is Sasha. Spent most of my 20s in federal prison, but have been off heroin since April 9, 2010. Got a lot of stories about prison, a lot of them about why it sucks, but God forbid you go. You won't make some of the same mistakes I make, because I made a whole good many. And I make fun of myself a lot in those mistakes, you know, but hopefully it'll help somebody else out. So anyway, don't know if you guys have seen, but Petersburg, where I was at, 4 prisoners have escaped. They escaped. Now, the first thing I saw when I saw prison escape, I saw it on a little community post on another prison YouTuber. I saw a picture of this building, and I was like, that's Richmond Hall. I lived in there. It's a big old building. It's 3 floors in a basement of Richmond Hall. But it's inside 2 rows. There's 2 fences, razor wire on each, and then in the middle of those fences, there's one circular spiral of razor wire. Then behind that, there's 2 rows of circle. Then there's 3 rows. So it's pretty. You can't climb over those 3 rows. You get tore up and pissed. So I'm thinking, how people escape out of there? Because it's a low security, but the security is just as high as the medium in terms of the perimeter security. Did a little bit more looking into it. They escaped from the camp, okay? Which is stupid. I mean, that makes as much sense as wiping before you poop. I mean, why would you escape a camp? First off, to get to a camp, you have to have less than 10 years. So all these guys had less than 10 years. Second off, the camp is not like a prison. They have a CDL program. Inmates are driving tractor trailers throughout town, of course with the CO with them. And all day at the low security and to medium, you see these golf carts driving around the perimeter of the compound, and that is the campers. They drive to and stuff from the storage and all this other stuff. So, I mean, you're driving on golf carts. They've caught campers with lobster from a restaurant that was smuggled in the microwave. There's no fences. Guys would go off and meet prostitutes in the woods. And one guy would sneak out and go fishing. There's a river down by the way. So these 4 guys, and from what I read, there's not a whole lot of information on it yet. It sounds like they were noticed missing at like 1:45 a.m. So I'm guessing they don't have locks on the buildings they live in, which, I mean, pretty much from what I'd heard, they do count like twice a day there. And all the time in between, like, it's impossible. They have a giant farm that surrounds the perimeter of it, so it's impossible to account for. But there's only a couple hundred people there. So did they escape? Technically, but really, they kind of just walked away. They kind of just walked out of the prison, because that's all you got to do. There's woods and everything else around it. It's super easy if you were a camper to leave. Let me put it this way. They are so unsupervised in how they walk and how they move. When you go visit somebody at Petersburg Low, my mom can talk about this. My mom, see, inside the Low visiting room, you can see the camp. And you see the camp's visiting room. They don't even search inmates when they go in or when they go out of the visiting room. They don't search inmates. So, I mean, people are bringing them cell phones and everything else. My friend Justin Berger, who's at now, has told me that roughly about 1 in 3 or 1 in 4 of the people at the camp had a cell phone. If you get caught with it, you're in trouble. They're going to send you. They're going to send you probably to another state, to another look. But everybody has them. But God, you get caught with one of them. That's worse. Get caught with a knife in there, which is crazy. But for some reason, that cell phone. But anyway, yeah, it's stupid because it's the cushiest place ever. Okay, I was supposed to start at a camp. I started at a Low, even though I had camp points, and because I pissed off the SIS lieutenant with my smart mouth. When he said some stuff, though, he had it coming and he deserved it. But I said some stuff that bit down to the core, so he had me sent to the medium, even though I had camp points, which basically shows the BOP just does what they want, because there's no reason at all I should have been sent to a medium. I mean, first-time offender, non-violent, there was 0 reason whatsoever, you know. But anyway, so I'm going to tell another story about somebody who escaped from prison. I'm going to tell a story about a guy who was a mafia member. Not the typical mafia, though. Dixie Mafia. And I touched on this in another video before, but, you know, there's a couple videos I redid, you know. So this is a little bit more in depth about it. So this guy we call Pappy. Pappy was an older white man. Big pot belly, leathery tan skin, white hair, a horseshoe, a bald head, almost always had a ball cap on. and he talked like this. He talked real quiet, and he was just a nice, quiet Southern man. And I'd always mess with him. I'd irk him, pluck his nerve. I loved him. I mean, I looked at him like, kind of like Uncle Jesse type figure. But anyway, we get in these arguments, and he'd say he called lunch dinner. So at 12 noon when you eat, he's like, I wonder when dinner's going to be. I'm like, dinner? Like, yeah, when dinner? And he called what I call dinner, which is eating at like 6 p.m., he called that supper. So breakfast, dinner, supper. That's what he called it. Just his country old way of talking. And I'd get in little arguments and irk him, and I'd be like, no, it's called lunch. No, it's called supper. And we'd go back and forth with that. So Dixie Mafia, what is that? It's kind of a country old mafia type thing, and basically they're in everything. They have people in law enforcement, they have people in the government, and they're really hard to get arrested unless you have the federal authorities involved, which is where that comes in. So Pappy was a moonshiner, and whenever I asked him how much he got caught with, he said, well, I got caught with a few more gallons than there are days in the year. He talked funny like that, but it was really entertaining. And they kept looking for him because the feds kept, interviewing, trying to figure out, because they heard about this guy making moonshine. And typically moonshine takes a running water source to cool it down. Because, see, water and alcohol have different points where they evaporate. So if you heat it up just enough to get the alcohol out, the water stays behind, the alcohol evaporates, and then when it goes down this coil, you have to cool it so then it turns back to liquid from vapor, and that's how you get your alcohol. So a lot of time they needed running water, but to do it. But basically, I don't know the exact setup, but basically he had kind of like you have mobile, speed labs, people cooking up dope in their car. He had a mobile moonshine still in a truck, in the back of a truck. It's some wild stuff, man. And they couldn't catch him because he'd move from place to place. Something too, at some point, just for interesting, I think it'd be something interesting if any of you guys want to see. If you guys like to see me make some of that. See, it isn't illegal to make liquor. It's not illegal to make liquor. You can make so many gallons, I think, of liquor, and it's legal. What's illegal is selling it. You can't sell it because it's untaxed liquor. So the liquor is illegal. It's the tax and untaxed liquor selling that. But I know how to do that. I did it with stuff. But here in a few months, stuff like that. That'd be something to be interesting. Something to give thought to. I don't really care much for it, but just like I like growing weed, I like making that. It's like an art form to it. And although hard drugs, I'm completely against those. And I don't even like smoking weed. I can't stand it, but I love to grow it. My God. Some with the Virginia laws, I might do something like that and put it on here. It's like an art form with that to me. Like I got really deep down into it. Crossing strains, making feminized seeds, all that type of stuff. But anyway, Pappy's son, being involved in the whole criminal network that he was involved, had a whole field of weed. And he was going to get in trouble too. He was going to go to prison, and Pappy stood up, as most parents do for their children. Although in the drug world you don't see it a lot. You see dads selling out sons. I've seen that. I've seen sons selling out dads, brothers and sisters selling each other out. Well, Pappy stood up and he said, no, 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 that's mine. And he took blame for the field of pot. So the moonshine got him a little bit of time. He ended up getting something like 8 or 9, 10 years because of that field of weed. And he took that charge for his son. Well, Pappy was at a camp and they diagnosed him with cancer. And he's done this noble thing and taken this charge for his son. He finds that he has cancer, and he's an old man, and it bothered him, obviously, that he's probably going to die in prison is what he thought. So, being as how camps don't have fences, he walked away. He escaped prison. He just started walking away through the woods. And basically, it's kind of a funny story because you're too old to escape prison when you take a nap on your getaway. He said that he was going through the woods and he got lost. He was trying to go by where the sun was at, and he laid down, took himself a nap. And it was, there's two different, things that I heard about. Basically, he just ended up going back. And of course, they'd been looking for him. They knew he was gone. So He got in trouble. He went to the hole. Then he got put in the low security, where he worked at maintenance, which is where I knew him. Okay, and he was, you know, he went through the chemo, went through it, and he beat it. He beat cancer. You know, I'm happy to say that that he made it out. He made it out of prison. You know, he made it out alive. But Pappy, he was quick. You know, people mess with him sometime. You know, and he'd just act like an old man, like he was slow or something. Then out of nowhere, he'd just shoot his hand up there, and he'd touch your face, and he'd go, "Old man's a little quick now," and then he'd mess with you. Carried 2 sharpened pencils, sharp, like point, down to the point, sharp as could be, in his pocket. If you ever needed a pencil, and I got told this by one of my friends, they asked Pappy, and I find certain people interesting. A lot of the people that I met that were higher up in the food chain of narcotics, crime, and stuff like that, I find them as fascinating people, and I wanted to know a lot of their story, you know? I mean, imagine if you were around people that literally, like our characters that came out of a movie, you'd ask them questions, you know? Me, I'm kind of a nerd for stuff like that. Tell me your story, you know? Met Caribbean drug lord Sean Pentard, who sold 500 kilos of coke every 3 months for the Colombians and had to go send his cousin to live with them in exchange for the consignment until he paid it off. That's crazy. Eugene Robinson, Clarence Eugene Robinson, look that name up. Okay, he allegedly killed a cop, the 2 people that snitched on him for it, and he was in there convicted of shooting 2 FBI agents in a diner. He taught me to play handball. You know, these interesting people like that. So you sit down with Pappy and I talk to him, you know, about those pencils, and I'm like, "What's up with the pencils, Pappy?" He said, "Well, when I was younger," he says, "I liked to drink and fight." He said, "But now I'm just too old for that. So if somebody messes with me, I'm going to put those 2 pencils in their eye." And I didn't doubt one bit that he would have. And he lived a pretty... he reminded me of, like, you know, my grandma or somebody like that in terms of his routine. This man went to bed at like 7:30 or 8 p.m. every night, and he was up at 5 a.m. every day. Same routine. He had himself a routine, and a lot of prison, getting by in prison. Okay, one of the easiest ways to make the time go by quicker is if you have a routine. You know, something different that you do. There are a few different things, a few different outlets. A lot of the older folks, you know, they have a music room. They've got guitars and some of that stuff, and people like to play it. And you know, you'd see him hanging around there, and some of the older folks go down there and they play bluegrass and country. I knew an old black man named Ike that could play the guitar better than, probably, like, he could have been doing shows. He was an old gangster that was robbing, shooting people, and he'd fight people too. He fit, my God. He could run. He ran 2 miles every day, about 7 minutes each mile, and he's in his 70s. Okay. Well, he liked going down there and listening to that music, so Pappy'd go down there and hang out with them. And he'd sit there and he'd listen to that music. He didn't do a whole lot of talking. I mean, he only talked to a select handful of people. Like, you know, he wasn't going to come up to you and start a conversation. And if you came up and started a conversation with you, he didn't care much for you. He'd just be like, "Well, yeah, don't know." That's what he'd say. Yeah, or "Don't know." You know, and after I got to be friends with him, he taught me plenty. And I'd pick his brain about a lot of this stuff. But, you know, he was pretty connected in what he did, you know, and that's something that pretty much, I think, in a lot of these southern states, you know, that Dixie Mafia type areas, people look at, like, you know, alcohol's legal, you know, and I know alcohol's probably more dangerous than most drugs, to be honest with you, and it's absurd that it's completely legal, and weed, the stuff that's going on with it, but weed definitely isn't hurting anybody. So, you know, that kind of stuff is overlooked, as opposed to, you know, powders that are being smuggled across the border, chemicals being smuggled across the border that are actually killing people. And, you know, so he was in that type of stuff that, you know, it was, you know, it's a kind of a outlaw country thing. Years back, you know, you youngsters probably don't know this, but back when I've grown up, mid-grade was not probably what y'all got now. I mean, I'm not involved with it, so I don't know what's out there now, but weed used to have seeds in it. You might know this, you might not. It did. Okay, swag was brown and had seeds. Mid-grade was like a light lime, but it still had a bunch of seeds in it. Most of that was grown in West Virginia, and Kentucky, in that area. The majority of that was grown through the mountains out there. You know, it's a huge thing. It was a huge thing then. It's not now, you know, a whole lot of stuff in California and all that type of deal. But I mean, there are a whole bunch of fields and a whole bunch of stuff like that out there. If you've seen some of these mountains, and I might take y'all on a trip one day. My fiance's dad runs the Buffalo Farm in Paint Bank, Virginia. If you look that up, it's some really cool stuff. I can show you buffalo. She was just playing with baby cows yesterday. I can take you out there and show you some of that place. But out there, you know, if you see these mountains and the extent of how deep these mountains go, just like it's national forest out there. Okay, it is absurd. My fiance Casey and my cousin have both seen a mountain lion at the top of Potts Mountain. I haven't seen it. They said it was about as big as Sasha here. I haven't seen it. I wish I could have. My fiance, I've got pictures of her holding a bobcat that got hit by a car. It's still intact. It was dead, but she held the cat up, smiling. It made for a good picture. Her uncle, I have pictures of an 8-foot rattlesnake that he killed that has 22 rattlers. Okay, 22 rattlers, supposedly that means it's 22 years old. It's supposed to be a rattler a year. That might just be some country folklore. I don't know. I've never seen nothing like that. I also got pictures. We chased a bear. Sounds crazy. I have pictures of it though. Okay, I see a bear running across a field, and I say, speed up. And this back, you know, in my license, she's like, what? I said, I've never seen a bear. Speed up. I want to see it. So it's running at this angle, and when we're driving down the road, there's an embankment where we can't see the bear anymore. And she's like, it's going to pop up right in front of us. And I said, no, it's not. Pops up right in front of us and bounces on a concrete pylon. And I dropped my phone, and I got it back up in time to take pictures of it running right in front of our car, then jumping over the thing. A big side view of it to show how bulky this thing was. But, you know, it's a wild wilderness area. And my point, you know, my ADD went off a little bit there, sorry. That's some cool stuff that I can show y'all too, though. But out there in these areas, you know, there's a lot of weed farmers out there. These weed farmers out in the country, a lot of these people live off the grid. Very, you know, they just, it's not that they're anti-government like, you know, like the lizard people and they're drinking babies' blood. Not that. It's just, we provide for ourselves. We don't need help from the government. We don't want to be bothered by the government. That's what a lot of these folks' outlook is. And, you know, you gotta respect, they don't want to cause harm or, you know, rise up or any of that type stuff. It's nothing like any of that. They're just people that want to do their own thing and be left alone to do their own thing. And I met some interesting people that, you know, I can, you know, I'm gonna expand this, do some interviews, you know, on some of these people. But out there, you know, some of these old wheat farmers and stuff, it's a big culture. In the corner of West Virginia, Virginia, and Kentucky, it's a huge thing. That's what is involved in. So anyway, it was a little bit of a rant. Now, on those guys that snuck off from the prison, what's going to happen to them? Okay, all this prison escape stuff, they're cracking down stuff because it's happening too frequently. It's been in the news too much, especially with the more serious ones. These aren't serious, but where it's been in the news, they're like, we got to do something about this. If they escaped, and there's four guys who escaped, they didn't just walk off in the middle of the night and say, let's forge through the forest. They have a plan. I guarantee you, one of them, probably, they were all pretty much nonviolent. They had drug offenses, a couple firearms offenses, but you can't be at the camp and have any serious violent charges. So despite the media's picture of this, they are not crazy, outlaw, dangerous killers or anything like that. One of them probably has a lot of money from selling dope. Money hidden away somewhere, God knows how. So one or more of them. And then there's going to be one or more of them that's got a girl or a family that's helping them get to where they're going. Okay, so that's what's probably going on with that. I'd say each of those four people are, I'd say all four are very good friends, but I'd say each of those four has a purpose to their cause. And they have a plan. They're not just going, you know, hide out. They're going to do, I'd say they've thought this out pretty well, if I were to guess it. If there's four involved, they left from a camp, yeah, they probably had this pretty well thought out. And where camps have so many cell phones, it's so easy to make calls outside and set the whole thing up. Like I said, 1 in 3, 1 in 4 people at the camp has a phone, and it's all woods and stuff around. They go out in the woods and talk for 3 hours setting up a plan about, okay, we're going to meet here at this time, you're going to pick us up, we're going to drive to here, then we're going to switch off, and you know, that it's hard to tell. It'll be interesting to see where they turn up at. I'm really interested to see if they turn up. Very good chance they will. Very rarely do people escape. And you got to live looking over your shoulder the rest of your life. And I can't lie. When I was in prison, even though I knew I wouldn't escape if there was a hole in the fence, your mind sits there going. And I'm looking at the structure of everything, and I'm like, I could probably get over the fence from there. Because at one part of one building, it's up high enough where you could probably jump and land over. Be a heck of a jump. And then I thought, well, if I was able to get a ladder from maintenance, go to the back, I could take that. If I had two ladders, one ladder to get to the top, and then the second ladder to make a bridge between the two fences that come up, and cross the bridge, make the bridge over top of them, then crawl over that. That'd be another way. Then when I was at maintenance, I saw the trash truck come in. There's one gate that opens, it comes in, the gate shuts. The next gate opens, it comes out, so I watch that fence. And I thought, well, if you get in the back of that trash thing, you think about these different things. I would have never done it. It's just a thought that you can't help. You wonder, how would somebody do it? But from a camp, you just walk away. Anyway, if you liked the video, give me a like. If you think I've earned it only, though, if you thought it sucked, if my ADD and ABCs and OCDs went way too off the wall on this one, that's okay, too. I figured to cut up and just talk for a little bit since yesterday was such a droopy, sad, depressing one. But it was one that needed to be heard. Because although, the whole booty ban and all that stuff, it's very low percentage. I'd say the number of people that get assaulted is probably somewhere in the area of 1 in 500, okay? 1 in 400 to 500, and most of the time it's people that are openly, out there with it, and a lot of times it's people that, stuff like that. It's normally just not. I mean, there's so many people in there that are giving it away, that are deviants, that are just want anybody approach them, they'll go in a room and do something with, because you see like that one dude I told you about, Strawberry, at the Medium. I saw no less than 20 dudes go in his room in the course of 1 year and put up the bathroom sign. So you got people like that, you know what I mean? But even then, Strawberry was giving it up, and I got a story about the Bandit Worse Than Fleece, that 7-part series I got on that. Even though you got guys like Strawberry giving it up, there's guys like Ghost that didn't want him to give it up. They wanted to be violent, and take it. And that's what it was, and then they extorted him. So anyway, if you think I earned a like, press the like button. You guys have a wonderful day.